I was always the entertainer in my household. I would put on my grandfather's like talis and his kippah and start being Rabbi Akiva, whatever. A good person bist a mensch. Need a blessing, let me bench you to be safe. Are you kosher, are you treif? Need a shidduch, get a shatchen. At the wedding, I'm your batchen. It is actually fascinating, that strong contrast, that kind of oppressive and feeling like you grow up in a box and so extreme and radical and you don't get to explore life. And then there's this other side to it that feels, there's a warmth to it and there's a belonging. There's a feeling, a sense of belonging and knowing your place and knowing your people. I think that's something we all want. Like, it's very hard to find yourself in the world.
Hello and welcome. My name is Frida Weisel, and for the first 25 years of my life, I lived in the Satmar Hasidic community. My deep Jewish roots have shaped me and created in me an endless interest to probe this world, the world around it, and the humanity that's common thread through us all. Today, for my long-form interview series, I'll be talking to the singer, songwriter, and actress Leah Kalish. Leah is a very different story from the many stories you've heard on this channel. She grew up in Zurich and later fell in love with Yiddish and Yiddish music. In one of her music videos, she sings, "I am a shtetl neshama, a Jew from yesterday. I should have been religious. My hashtag is oivei. I dig the Heimish vibe. I get all sentimental. When I think of my tribe, oh, I should have been the next Yentl."
When I think of my tribe, oh, I wanna be the new Yentl.
Leah also creates content that pushes the envelope, critical of gender roles, wearing a bomber jacket and a Hasidic shtreimel. She exists in this gray space that is not common enough, and so I invited her today for a discussion and to better understand her work and to learn about what motivates it. So, welcome, Leah, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm great. Just actually did a concert today at a Jewish elderly home singing Yiddish songs.
Where? Where
In
is this?
Zurich,
In-
Switzerland. I've done it when I visit my home. I try to do it once in a while, once a year. And actually, my grandma is now living in that elderly home. That was even more reason to do a show there.
Oh, that's wonderful. How did it go?
It's so wonderful. It's the hardest gig. I swear, I think performing for 2,000 people is easier than for like in a small room with, old people of all
Yeah.
levels of awareness. But it's probably the most meaningful gig, really.
What did you sing?
I sang a range of Yiddish songs, some of the classics, Barry Sisters, Cherubim, Abi Gesund, the stuff that some of these people just know and can clap and sing along. And then I sang some lesser known Yiddish tunes. I even sang in Arabic. Um, and it's actually, there's some religious people there. So, and my dress had a slit that was higher up than I thought it was gonna be. But they didn't care. They loved it. We clapped and we sang and we danced and it was just it's so amazing.
Does your grandmother understand Yiddish?
Yeah, I mean she speaks German, so she will understand a good amount of Yiddish, not every word, maybe not the ones that are more from the Hebrew, but a good amount.
Oh, that's so sweet. Is it like Chiribim, Chiribum, Chiribum? Is that the
Chiribim bam
song?
bam 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 bam. Chiribim, chiribam, chiribim bam 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 bam. Chiribim. Yeah, genau. I mean, yes. Yeah, and actually I sang it. I had a friend who's a pianist and a Yiddish singer who actually introduced me to Yiddish music 10 years ago when I still lived in Switzerland. When I was 20. She has a Yiddish band, and I was a guest singer in her band. So we hadn't performed together in 10 years, and she volunteers at that elderly home. And so today we performed together again after 10 years. It was so nice.
So she kind of was the beginning of your whole journey in the Yiddish world?
In a way, yeah, my dad went to her concert, and my dad is a big schmoozer, talks to anybody, everybody, everywhere. And he said, "Yeah, I have this talented daughter." Well, he speaks German, but and
But he has
when if
like
you
the
ever need to,
Brooklyn persona? Does he have like the Brooklyn
yes,
character?
well, he's a Viennese Jew with Viennese charm. very proud of his daughters. So anyway, he schmoozes up with anybody. And so he introduced himself to this lady, Dela Hüttner, who was the singer of the band, and said, I have a daughter who can sing Yiddish and is a great singer. So we ended up, actually, she needed a singer. So for a year, I performed with her band in Switzerland. That was in 2014. So, and we became friends, and I wouldn't say it was my first stroke or with Yiddish. I had listened to Yiddish before, but really singing it in public, it might have been the first time. Yeah.
So how did you come to Yiddish? You seem really fluent. Are you very fluent?
I think I'm fluent. I fake it a little at times with my Germanic influence. I have a good ear. I sound very Hamish. But no, I think I passed by as fluent.
You
You know,
passed as
there are
fluent.
so many colors. I was just at that elderly home, and there's a Hasidic couple that lives in that home. He's with the Shtreimel. I spent Shabbos there. It's like,
Oh, you were there for
it's a
Shabbos?
scene. I was there for Friday night dinner. It's a scene. I want to make a TV show about an elderly home. I have this whole thing that just, it's, I was there on Friday for Shabbos, and I was like, oh my God, I need to make this into a movie. But anyway, there was a couple, and he comes in a wheelchair with his nice coat and the Shtreimel, and his wife. They sit across from each other and they speak Yiddish all night. The rest of the people are not that religious. Different range, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, how did I end up talking about them?
You were talking about your
Oh,
fluency level.
yeah, but yeah, many people today, the woman, his wife who was at the concert, she's like, did you grow up with Yiddish? You sound like a real boch, you know, like a Hamish, I don't know. You sound like one of us. And I'm like, I'm not. But I guess I must have been in my past life somewhere.
Yeah. You have like do you feel like you have shtetl neshama, like you feel like that captures in a way who you are, like you sing
Yeah.
in the
So the
song?
term, you know, Shtetl Neshama, I have to credit my dear friend, Eitan Schechter, who's a Swiss Jew and a Shtetl Neshama himself. And he saw me on stage a few years ago, and then we chatted on Facebook, and he said, how are you, Shtetl Neshama? And I was like, what? Is that a thing? He's like, yeah, Shtetl Neshama. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, you know what that is. You are one, I'm one. And he came up with this term. And so soon after, on a summer night in New York, I sat down and wrote the song. Um, and I think it's really an amazing title. It really
Yeah.
fits. It captures this yeah, Shtetl Neshama, somebody who feels connected to this kind of shtetl, nostalgic, old school Judaism that nowadays you really only find in small shtibels and in Brooklyn and, you know, in little pockets.
Interesting. So you know, it's a very interesting concept. When I heard it, what struck me about it was we usually hear people who don't grow up religious, secular Jews, have a very derisive attitude towards religious Jews, like, oh, they're so backwards, or poor them, they're so oppressed. But this kind of celebration, or a kind of a nostalgia, longing of a yesterday, even if it's cognizant of, you know, it's not a perfect past, it's a very difficult past. It really hit me as an interesting phenomenon. Are there Jews who come from that place? I think that's why I've been so drawn to your music. This question: what does it mean to be a Jew that grows up in a secular world, longs for a kind of a shtetl authenticity, yet is also very much a secular person? And to that end, I think I'd like to kind of get the very beginning of your story. Where do you come from? What's your family background? How did you grow up? What's the context in which the shtetl
Yeah.
neshama, come from?
So I grew up in a Jewish household in Zurich, Switzerland. Both my parents are Jewish. My dad's from Vienna. My mom was born in Switzerland, but all my grandparents are from Czechoslovakia. Pretty much. My grandma is Italian, but her parents from Prague and Czechoslovakia. So the East, you know. My grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. He survived Auschwitz and the death march to Dachau. Most of his family, all of his family was perished in the Holocaust except for his brother and a cousin. So I grew up, I'd say modern Orthodox. When I was very young, we went to shul and we had Shabbat meals every Shabbos, and we were Shomer Shabbat. But my parents got divorced when I was 6, and then my mom sort of turned away from religious Judaism, and she grew up religious, like going to religious schools, but modern religious, you know. But yeah, she did go to Jewish school and always doing all the holidays. Yeah. And my dad grew up totally not religious, eating pork and not ever going to synagogue as much as I know. And so when my parents got divorced, actually my dad's went a little more towards Judaism. My mom went away. But my dad also they both had non-Jewish partners since. So I celebrated Hanukkah and Christmas at the same time.
I see.
So I always loved Christmas, loved it because it was so light and the gifts and the candles and it was so fun. It was candy and all the Jewish holidays were so heavy and man schleppt sich, you know?
Really? Was Hanukkah not light?
No, not in
No.
my memory. I mean, maybe one of the more fun ones in Purim, but the Swiss Judaism is very dry. It's very halachic. It's very obeying the rules, being kosher, going to the minyan and having a bat mitzvah, but it's not spiritual. I was at a Jewish wedding yesterday and I discussed it with some of the cool kids and there's just I think that's a European phenomenon. I think a lot of the Judaism is still so burdened by the Holocaust and by, you know, cut off. People cut off the spiritual part, which is what I think, Hasidim are so much about that shakaldik and singing and that togetherness that we have it here in the also in pockets, but the Judaism I grew up in was very dry. I never felt like I belonged. It was always something I felt like was interesting and I sort of wanted to belong, but I didn't because maybe my parents were divorced and we stopped going and I was also a figure skater, so I every weekend I went to competitions whereas other people went to like, you know, Jewish youth groups, Bnei Akiva, Hagoshrim. I don't know if that says anything to you, but like, Shabbat programming for teens. So I wasn't part of that. So I was with one foot in and with one foot out. So that was how we grew up, and yeah, the Holocaust story of my grandfather was always kind of hovering around us, and there was a heaviness. There,
Ah,
yeah, there was. It was definitely very heavy. Um, but when I was a child, I would like on a trip to France with my grandparents and my sister. I was always the entertainer in my household. I would put on my grandfather's like talis and his kippah and start being Rabbi Akiva, whatever. I would always have that. I loved dressing up as men and shuckling and doing all the stuff that I only knew because I kind of was in that environment. So I must have had some kind of longing for that already as a kid, you know?
very interesting. How big is the Zurich Jewish community?
Oh my God. I can't tell you anything wrong now. I'm gonna research it. There are Jews here. It's not that small. A few
Give
thousand,
me a
I would
sense.
say.
Like, is there a thriving Jewish community? Is there a tiny little one?
No, it's not thriving like New York City or Tel Aviv
Yeah, okay.
or
Okay, I understand that.
it's a small town, but there are, you have modern Orthodox, you have Hasidim, you have Haredi, you have Reform, you have a big pot of I'd say more liberal Jews, like secular, the way I grew up, and there's a big range in there too. What is actually interesting, what I just discovered at the wedding yesterday, a lot of people who grew up more religious, who went to Jewish school with me, but then I dropped out after 2 years. Most Swiss Jews are not religious anymore. The people my age, my peers, are barely practicing, which is quite fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's among those people who were sort of in the liberal, modern Orthodox world. They're like totally disconnected now
Wow.
that they're in their 30s. Um,
What happened with
so
you?
What happened with me?
Yeah. You're now a Rebbitzin, aren't
Um,
you? You're officially
if I'm a
Rebbitzin Leia.
Rebbitzin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm now officially a proud Rebbitzin, even though my Hasidic friends, uh, I have a few Hasidic friends, they were the people who called me Rebbitzin Laya. Rebbitzin Laya. How is
Oh, that's
Rebbitzin
it.
Laya?
That's the Yiddish version.
Yeah, they started calling me like that, or maybe one person in particular, because they discovered me in the Yiddish theater. So basically, what happened to me is when I was 20, I moved to New York, and then actually my dad. Okay, first of all, New York, I discovered Judaism because New York has so many pockets of Judaism. It was like wow, it's like being like birthed again in a way. Um, so, I got more, I don't know, it was fun to explore my Judaism through going through different synagogues and different music and different people. But then, really, it was my dad who came to visit me in New York and said, Leah, guess what? Can you believe it? There's a play in Yiddish, Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller, with like this really famous piece. They're doing it in Yiddish. You want to go? And we went, and it blew us away. We were blown away. I saw it again a second time. And as I told you, my dad is a big schmoozer. Walked up to the director, walked up to this person, said, Leah, you got to talk to this guy. He's from Berlin, la 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 la. And so I got into Yiddish theater really because my dad took me to that show when he visited me. I didn't know something like that existed. So I started taking some Yiddish classes and being part of some readings of Yiddish plays. Uh, all the while, I was also going to different synagogues and exploring Jewish culture and expression in New York. And so over time, really through the Yiddish theater, I got more and got a bit an insight into Hasidic culture through these few Hasids who show up at the Yiddish theater. And I don't know, just felt so cozy. It felt so Hamish. It felt like we don't need to talk around the bush, you know? We just are right there. It's just being myself.
Interesting. I actually just read a book by the author Tovia Tenenbaum who writes about Yiddish as a language that's like, you know him? Oh, you must know him. He's in the Jewish theater scene in New York.
Wait, he just didn't he just make a documentary about
Yes.
living like a chassid for a year or something?
Living in
Yes.
Meisharim for a year. And he has the
Okay. Yeah.
funniest bit in his book about how things that mean one thing in English mean something completely else in Yiddish. He's like, you don't understand. If this doesn't make sense to you, it's because you don't understand Yiddish. Like he puts this whole twist on the Yiddish language as being a vehicle of this people saying things that like might not like there's a lot of character, there's a lot of charm to Yiddish in his version of Yiddish that is very sweet. But I want to know about your version of Yiddish. Did you grow up speaking Swiss German? Is that your first
Yeah.
language?
Yeah, with my mom always Swiss German, with my dad German because he's from Vienna, so he has a bit of a Viennese dialect, but very subtle. But yeah, so I grew up with German and Swiss German.
To me, from my experience as a tour guide, Swiss German is closer to Yiddish than like Berlin German. Is that your
Yeah, it
experience?
can be like epis, upis. It could be the sounds are a little more similar. Yeah, that's why actually a lot of my Swiss friends, non-Jewish Swiss friends, even, they do understand some Yiddish. Obviously, there's so many similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always a little in the Yiddish academia. Some, not everybody, but there's a bit of like a looking down on German because they claim that, it's
It's
not the same language,
Deutsch-Yiddish.
obviously, but they are freaking related. And don't be so harsh on people who come from the German who speak Yiddish. Yes, it's not the same and things are different, but they are related a lot more than some people want to admit.
Yeah. We should do a test. Can you say something in Yiddish and also in German and we can see how similar they are? Like say today I
Okay,
played
well,
music for the elderly.
ja, heint habe ich gespielt Musik in a, wie sagt man das auf Jiddisch? In a
Alte,
Heim für alte
in a
Menschen.
Heimka, yeah. Ältere
Ja,
Menschen.
ältere Menschen, ja. Swiss German Heute habe ich in einem Heim gespielt, in einem Altersheim gespielt.
Hut is Hind.
Heute, Heint. That was pretty different, actually.
Yeah, it sounded different. Gespielt. I think we could
Gespielt.
understand.
Gespielt. Yeah. And then in German, it would be, heute habe ich in einem Altersheim gespielt.
Oh, yeah, that's totally easy to
Also,
understand. Heute habe
yeah.
ich in einem Altenheim gespielt.
Yeah. They are just, they're similar. That's
Yeah.
a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is great. And yet their character's so different.
Yeah.
Their essence is so different. That's what's amazing to me.
Like
The
how?
the kind of person I am, because I do speak Swiss German with my mom, High German with my dad. I'm a different person in Yiddish. There's like a total different quality to these languages, you know?
Can you articulate it? Like
Can I
what it is?
articulate it? I don't know. To me, Yiddish. No, it's the shtetl part of who I am.
Yeah.
It's the person who it's like when I do a New York Jewish accent. It's a person in me who likes to be a yente, who likes to ask, "Do you have a girlfriend? Are you looking for a shidduch?" It's that kind of quality. It's who likes to be spiffy and witty. It's that person in me. Whereas in the High German, it's the much more poetic me. It's the much more maybe sophisticated me, the more thoughtful, you know. And then Swiss German, it's my Leah child in me, a little hectic and a little angry and a little annoying.
That's so interesting. You actually have a knack for languages, don't you?
Yeah, I love languages. I loved learning. We learned French and English in school in Switzerland. I was a nerd altogether, but I loved learning languages, and I also always had a good sense of accents. Yeah. I do have to say it's harder. I am learning Arabic right now, for example. Maybe Arabic is just really hard, or maybe learning a language at 9 years old is easier than at 30. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not that old, you know, but I need more repetition. Also because I'm not in an Arabic environment,
Environment.
you know. So environment is everything because
Yeah.
I speak Spanish and I'm making a project in Argentina right now and just being surrounded by Spanish speaking people all day. It's just so important to really, evolve and improve in a language.
Do you speak Hebrew?
Yeah, I speak a little. Because I only went to Jewish school for 2 years, unfortunately it didn't come with my childhood. I wish. Took some lessons of Hebrew when I was young, but then really not until I was stuck in COVID in 2020. I did 2 ulpans online. So I spoke like every day for a bit. But then again, I am not in Israel. Most of my people in my
Yeah.
environment don't speak Hebrew, and now it's a little rusty. But I understand a lot, and I sound like in Israel. Guys will hit on me. They think I'm Israeli, and then I don't understand exactly what they said, and they think I'm acting to not be hit up by them. And
Which
then I have
works,
to
no?
say, no, I actually didn't understand what you said because they think I'm Israeli. Even because I sound like my accent's good, but I don't have the vocabulary. So it's a little hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
hard
You
to
sing
know.
French, it sounds to me, the French that you sing also sounds to me like I don't know that I could work really hard and pull off the French accent. Like you seem to embody accents. I wouldn't be able to do that even if I worked really hard.
Really?
I think so. By the way, how come you're learning Arabic?
Few reasons. One, I was studying Yiddish at Tel Aviv University last summer, and in our 1 month summer course, there was this wonderful young, well, whatever, woman, Miriam Tukan, who's a social activist and a singer and lawyer. Anyway, she sings Hebrew and Arabic and was studying Yiddish because she had started also singing in Yiddish. And to me, she's not Jewish. She's a Christian Israeli Arab or Christian Palestinian. And to me, her presence was just mind blowing. I don't know. Her presence in a Yiddish summer program where it's mostly Jews or people who work in Holocaust archives, non-Jews, but who work in this, a lot of Holocaust work, who need to learn Yiddish to translate, transcribe letters or stuff. But to have a non-Jewish, Arab-speaking woman study Yiddish, it made such an impact on me. I thought it was just her presence there was so powerful. And so that was the first inspiration, because we sang a song together that she translated from Yiddish to Arabic. And I was like, wow, it's just so amazing that these totally different sounding voices singing the same Yiddish poem. And also how vocally it's so different. It's like the different kinds of singing. It just had a huge impact. And then October 7th happened. And I was like, maybe I should learn Arabic. And then I just felt like, you know what? Really, the most effective way I can engage with the conflict is learning Arabic. That's what I felt. And I've been studying for 5 months with a school called Kan Zela Ulpan, which is actually the same school I learned Hebrew with. It's a Israeli-Palestinian collective based in Yerushalayim and Tel Aviv. And they teach Arabic and Hebrew. And they have online classes. And it's been amazing. Really hard. Really, really hard.
Very hard. Do you know the alphabet already?
Yeah. Actually, it's literally happens to be right next to me for some reason. I still use this all the time to create sentences. No, I can say a few sentences, and but I have to think a lot. And everywhere I go, is it a tango dance event or salsa club, I meet somebody who speaks Arabic. I try a few words.
Yeah, I'm working on my Hebrew, and I don't have a knack for language, so I'm working really hard. But when I see an Israeli person, I'm like, oh, you, come here. Let me work. Let me do a little practice on you. They hate it. They really don't want, to be your teacher or to be recruited to. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of Israelis are like, we'll speak English. We understand English. We're comfortable with English. It's good enough.
Yeah, I get it. It's a little draining being that person has to wait for you to freaking make the sentence. It can be draining, but it's the only way to do it. It's the only way to learn.
Yeah, you have to hijack a couple of people and just force them.
Yeah.
So when I said you're a Rebbetzin, you're literally a Rebbetzin in the sense that you married a rabbi, right? Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah. First, I dated a rabbi. Yes. Then I got engaged to a rabbi, and now we're married as of October 15th. So.
Oh, wow. Really? So the wedding was like last year?
Yeah. October 15th in Lisbon, Portugal.
Nice.
Yeah. But I had my Rebbetzin Leah title before we even met.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my, amongst my, Williamsburger friends, I was already Rebbetzin Leah. And I was very proud of that title. But I also loved dating a rabbi. It was a big turn on for me, which is hilarious. I never thought I would end up with a rabbi.
Rabbis
but also
are
my
sexy.
husband's, they are. Not all of them, let's be honest. But I don't know. It was also my husband is Reform rabbi, so he was cool. He had a man bun when we met. He plays guitar, and I couldn't sing on key when we met. We met studying Yiddish, so that was kind of what connected us already in the beginning.
Do you speak to each other in Yiddish?
No.
What language do you speak to each other in?
English, but we're moving to Vienna, so now he has to learn German. So these days we speak more German and English.
How come you're moving? You're moving from Minneapolis, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I've been in America for 10 years. I used to be a New York girl all around, never thought I could live anywhere else. Then he had this opportunity to be a rabbi, his first position out of rabbinical school in Minneapolis at a big synagogue. He moved there. COVID happened. I also moved there. I spent a lot of time there in the last 4 years, and we always knew it's not a place we're going to stay. Like, it's really far from my family. It's not really the best place for what I do as an artist, I would say. It's out of the way, and it's we made it our home, but we always knew this is not where we're gonna land. If we ever are going to land anywhere, I don't know about that either. But anyway, we were ready for a new adventure, and there was a rabbinical position open in Vienna at the only reform synagogue in the country, and we just said, let's do something new.
Wow. That's going to be a big change.
Totally. But I have also, I love Vienna. I've been doing a bunch of gigs there in the last few years. My dad's from there, so I am a bit connected, and I have some friends there. I don't know. We'll see. We like adventures.
Yeah, you sound like, just by watching your work, you dabble with so many different things. I imagine you must like new stuff and adventure. My son is going. I told you this. My son is going to Minneapolis for college at Carleton.
Yes.
Is it gonna have like a nice Jewish community for him? Would you say?
It depends. I don't know what kind of Jewish life he lives.
Not Orthodox at all.
Yeah.
Not Orthodox.
There's definitely, people are very nice. There's a lot of synagogues. There are a lot of different communities. And I'm happy to make a shidduch.
Awesome.
In terms of community shidduchs and other shidduchs too, if that's wished.
We should talk about this in Yiddish to bring out the full Leah, the rabbits and Leah in you.
The Shatchen, the Leah Shatchen.
Leah, the rabbits and Leah, the Shatchen.
Yeah, they're one and the same.
It's the Shtetl Neshama. This is really what I want to like maybe probe a little more in this interview.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be a Shtetl Neshama for a woman who grew up largely secular, right? I think we can say you grew up a woman of the world. You have contacts in the Jewish and non-Jewish world. What does it mean to be someone who's charmed by Jewish spiritual life? Like, does that create a conflict for you with other values? Does that have a limitation to like where you're charmed and where you're not? What do you see from your eyes?
Look, I'd never be Hasidish. I would suffer so much if that's would have been my path, or if I had grown up in that world. But you know, it is actually fascinating, that strong contrast, that that kind of oppressive and feeling like you grow up in a box and so extreme and radical, and you don't get to explore life in its fullest. And then there's this other side to it that feels, there's a warmth to it. There's a warmth to it, and there's a belonging. There's a feeling, a sense of belonging and knowing your place and knowing your people. I think that's something we all want. Like, it's very hard to find yourself in the world. And, you know, I'm already overwhelmed when I go to a supermarket, then there's 20 different options for oatmeal, you know? That is the world, right? So I talked to somebody yesterday at this wedding who is more Orthodox, this cute couple who's just so adorably cute. And we talked a bit about what they like about being more religious. Just, he said that, you know, that togetherness you feel right now, we feel this even more. I feel this even more. For me, that's what I love. There's just sort of a kind of understanding and a language, a kind of humor. There's just, a kind of brotherhood or sisterhood. Mishpucha. I would say mishpucha. That's what it is. Which is beyond your actual family. It's like an extended family. That feeling, I think, is what humans love. I think it's universal. But I'm very attracted to it. It's hard to find. I find it in the artist community too. Like when I'm in a play with people for a few weeks, you really feel like family. And that's why I think that's why it's so much part of my artistry. They are kind of together, you know? But it's something that's really hard to articulate. I just feel like within me, I must have had a past life where I was maybe a Hasidic rabbi. I don't know. Or, you know, I don't know. It's just something that is. There's this longing, and just sort of my soul can access something, a connection to the past through Yiddishkeit. It's very hard to answer this.
Yeah, no, this is a very helpful answer. I hear you. And is there an and yet or a but to this?
No,
No. Because,
no, yeah,
like, I guess there's like this question, if you're in a theater group and you bond with everyone, you know, that sounds pretty clear cut to me. You know, you're not confronted with all of these roles that like traditional gender roles, and you actually sing about it, about covering up when you're drawn to one side of Yiddishkeit. Are you also at the same time like propelled away from it because of the women are all dressed up like you sang in your Aisha's Chayil of hip hop?
you know, the gender roles. I'm happy. Somehow, I'm happy that I'm free, that I can choose.
Yeah.
But the gender roles just fascinate me. I don't think there's like a wrong or right. For me, what's right is that I am super free. I think freedom is definitely the right path for me, and having options and being able to choose. But there's something that also fascinates me. There's a bit of me that wish I not. Here's the thing. I have different parts of me. One is very tznius, and there's a beauty to being modest. It's beautiful. There's a real beauty to modesty and focusing on the inner beauty. And there's a beauty to the recklessness of being, world, here I am. That's beautiful too, you know? And taking space. I think they're both beautiful. Holding in, covering up, being mysterious, and saying, look at me because I'm worthy, because I have something to say. And I hold those both truths. And I think I live them in different moments. That's what I love about acting and art. And some people who have watched my videos, they will recognize that I actually play with these opposites a lot. Like in my music video, Falling, I have an Orthodox Hasidic wedding in a theater, but I recreated that. And at the same time, I'm like sort of half naked playing a whore.
Which music? It's a music
It's
video?
it's called my song Falling, which was actually inspired of me playing a Yiddish whore in this famous play, Gott von Nekume, a Yiddish play, God of Vengeance. Amazing play, so juicy. And I fell in love with this whore that I played. But so there's this part of me, the whore, and then there's this good kosher maidel who never looked at a guy and sort of bends down. And I think, to me, they're both beautiful. And, you know, I can't be them at the same time, but I can, in my art, I can be them both. And then in my life, I'm somewhere in between. And so I think somehow I have the privilege to choose from religion or Jewish expression and culture the parts that I like, and play with them, you know?
Yeah.
I really think that's the beauty of theater and acting, that you can be both.
Yeah. As a Rebbitzin, does any of that pose to you a moral obligation? Like, do you feel like I'm a community leader because I'm married to a rabbi and we are the couple at the synagogue, and so I have to embody something?
No.
No.
Because I actually think, embody yourself. I actually think this, because I'm this, I need to embody that. I get why in a more religious community that would make sense, you know. Again, my husband's a Reform rabbi, so I would say Reform rabbis, their job, their rabbi job, to me is really a profession, not so much a lifestyle as maybe more Orthodox rabbis. It's really a commitment to a lifestyle. And I think, in the Reform world, it's a profession where you choose how much it becomes your lifestyle. Is what I have observed. Again, I'm not a rabbi.
In a former life, you are. You have the
Yeah,
experience from your former
and
life.
sometimes when I help my husband write sermons in the middle of the night,
Yeah. Oh
and be
my,
like,
that
no, you
sounds
need to
fun.
ask why. Yeah, medium fun, but
Medium
definitely
fun.
I'm. Um, no, wait, what was I trying to say? Oh, the rabbi. No, but I love community. I love hosting. I love creating spaces for people where they can be free and express themselves. I think I'm all about this. I'm all about creating spaces where people are willing to be intimate. I love intimacy and not in a sexual way. I mean, like connecting.
Yeah, I understand
I
what you're
love
saying.
creating spaces where people can just connect right away without small talk. Just be yourself and let's get to the things that are meaningful to us, you know? So I think that is a bit the Rebbitzin in me. I have that, you know? But I don't feel like I need to believe a certain thing or dress a certain way. You know, it's probably unconsciously there. But that's like social codes. It has nothing to
Yeah.
do with being a Rebbitzin. It's just like going to synagogue. Yeah, I don't go with a mini skirt because I don't think I want to show up like that in that space.
Yeah, yeah. What about your signature streimel that you wear all the time? You, in fact, say in your bio that your goal is to sing in Yiddish at the Super Bowl wearing a streimel on your head. True
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, and you know what else? I actually was recruited from a casting producer from America's Got Talent to be on the show. And 2 years ago, I had to submit a casting to the production team. And they wanted me to do something with the Schreimel. They thought it was the guy who found me, thought it was so unique that I'm a great singer, but I also rap and the Jewish thing. So the thing with the Super Bowl, that dream sort of was developed when I auditioned for America's Got Talent. I never made it onto the show, their loss.
Of
But
course.
yeah, I was watching the Super Bowl, which I never watched. I don't care at all about this event. But I was just saddened or disappointed that our industry is not as artful as it could be. Mainstream is not as artful as it could be. And there were a lot of male rappers. Mary J. Blige was the only woman, I think, that year, half naked, dancing. I mean, she's a great singer and performer. And I was like, you know, if Yiddish rap could make it on there, then we've made it. Then Yiddish has made it as a sub niche, almost dying language, like everybody thinks. I was like, then Yiddish finally got to the status of cool, sexy,
Wow.
hot.
I don't think
Modern.
I've even heard of Yiddish rap ever. Do you even rap in Yiddish? I think I've heard you rap in English.
Yeah, a little. Like I created actually this Yiddish rap for that audition.
You want to sing it?
I'm trying to figure out if I can still remember it. Yo, I'm Leah Kalish, Yiddish rapper, Jewish pop. Shalom Aleichem, nu was machst du? Tell me hello, it means what's up. I got talent for the stage, getting Yiddish from the page to your heart and soul. Rapping Yiddish at the Super Bowl, that's my dream. The world that's seen in self-esteem, a place we all belong. A good person bist a mensch. Need a blessing, let me bench you to be safe. Are you kosher, are you trade? Need a shidduch, get a shatchen. At the wedding, I'm your batchen.
Nice.
And then it gets on. Obviously, I couldn't just do Yiddish because none of these people would have understood. So
Right.
actually, no, my whole rap in Städel Neshumme. I'm a Städel Neshumme from Villanelle Prince. Gehe hier Städel Melody with Tears against. Ich gehe in die Gassen von Wilhelmsburg und Bora, pack mein Herz klappt wild und ich fühle so stark. Du siehst mein Hände sind meine Freund. That's in Yiddish.
Oh, that's right.
I have a long way to go with Yiddish rap. But yeah, I would love for Yiddish to make it onto a mainstream stage. And for myself, but really with Yiddish, you know?
It's Yiddish that you want to carry to the stardom.
Yeah, at least as a part of it, you know?
So what's the story with a streimel that you wear? Like half the time you're wearing a streimel.
Yeah, it's standing in front of me, but there's a lamp on it right now, so I can't move it.
Why is there a
It's
lamp on it?
actually-
It's literally a lamp
Because
holder.
I have this book that's a lamp from MoMA, and so it makes me look good on camera right now. Like
Oh,
I'm
got
lit
it.
because it's getting dark out. And
Got
the
it.
streimel is actually the thing that it's on. The box. No,
Oh, it's a
but
box.
the thing
It's
with
in a
the streimel-
box. Okay, that's
Yeah,
better.
yeah. Don't worry, I'm not really pressing on the beautiful hairs.
Oh my God, I was so worried.
No. The thing with the streimel is that Well, short story long, I had a Russian fur hat for my grandma that I wore in New York in the winter. I got a lot of compliments. I wore it sometimes when I was rehearsing dance in a studio and I started rapping to fundraise money. And sometimes I would put it on because it looked better than not having anything on my head. And that kind of was a thing. And then at the same time, I was hanging out with people from the Yiddish theater and some Hussids. And I happened to be at someone's home and said, oh, can I wear your shtreimel? And I loved how it looked. And then I was like, oh, this actually looks similar to my Russian fur hat from my grandma. And then I was in a class at University in New York at the New School, and the class was on hip hop culture. And my teacher was called Rabbi Darkside. That was his DJ name.
Okay.
A total secular, more leftist Jew. But somehow his name was Rabbi Darkside, which I thought was really cool. And so as a final project, I knew I want to do something Jewish, something hip hop merged. And then I came up with this Eshet Echayil of hip hop piece. And I knew that's when the story with the shtreimel was born. I was like, you know what? That piece initiated the shtreimel somehow. And then how I got to my first shtreimel, my first big love of a shtreimel, was that I knew a couple from Flatbush. I knew them both. Flatbush. Oh my God, sorry. I knew them both. They separated, and she had 2 shtreimels. And she actually texted me, do you know where I can sell shtreimels? I'm like, yeah, to me.
Wow.
So I got a really good deal on a beautiful shtreimel that actually it lasted for 5 years. And a few months ago, on a way to a gig in Prague, on a tram, I left it and never found it again.
Oh no.
Cried my heart out. Had to go to the gig without a shtreimel. I put some other weird hat on. Never found it again. And then I just got 2 new ones from eBay.
Oh, you bought it on eBay? eBay is a good place to buy Hasidic clothing, no?
Yeah, I don't know. I just was looking for shtreimels, and it seemed like eBay is the only place where you can sort of,
Did you get a real one? Did you get a real one?
I think they're real. They seem real.
How much was it?
I paid, how much money? I paid $490 for a bigger one and $175 for a smaller one.
Uh-huh.
One is a little small. I need to get it widened a little if it's possible. I don't know.
Oh, it's a little small on your head. It's not your head size.
Yeah, it was a small size, but it's a nice shtreimel. I'm like, how am I going to get this size now? I can't just walk into a shtreimel store. So we'll see how I will do that.
Wow. It's tricky being a woman wanting to wear the shtreimel.
Yeah. I have for 2 years, I've been walking around with this idea to have a whole fashion line with shtreimels with flowers and not real diamonds, but like stones, rhinestones. And I actually created my own version of that for my own wedding.
Is that video of Shtetl Neshama your actual wedding?
It was my actual wedding. I was like, my dream for this song was to have a big Jewish wedding. And I knew I'm not going to have a budget for a video like that to create an actual Jewish wedding unless it's my own.
Wow.
So in October, I said to my friends, all right, ready to shoot a video. We're taking one take. You're all going to be in it. Just have fun. And I put on the shtreimel with the flowers, which my idea would be to have multiple shtreimels with flowers in different shapes and maybe some fruits and different colors and stuff.
Your husband, traditionally, in the Hasidic world, the husband wears a shtreimel for the first time, or sort of for the first time at the wedding. Was he wearing a shtreimel? Or you
My
stole
husband?
the show? Yeah.
No, I stole the show, but he elevated my show.
Oh, okay.
He's a good. He makes me shine even more.
Oh, that's sweet. That's
Yeah.
very sweet. I like hearing that. That's a nice wedding story. I really like that music video. I've watched it a bunch of times because there's a lot of fun dancing. I was wondering if it's staged.
No, and this is why it's so fun to watch. It's
Yeah.
just people's pure joy,
Yeah.
We didn't stage anything. I just said, okay, let's all run to each other. And then my husband said, okay, everybody get down. There was just 2 cameras capturing it, and it's not perfect, but it's just the joy of the people. They were having so much fun being in it,
Wow. getting pushback for pushing the envelope? Like in some scenes, you're really dressed in like workout clothing and wearing a strimal. Are you getting pushback? Are you struggling with like
No,
people? No?
somehow not. You know, early on when my Eshet Khalif video came out, Eshet Khalif
Can you
hip
explain
hop,
what it is? Like,
yeah, the Eshet Khalif hip hop video.
yeah.
Yeah, the Eshet Khalif hip hop video was a new rendition of the song Eshet Khalil, where I compare ultra Orthodox Judaism to hip hop culture. Again, I'm not ultra Orthodox, but I've gotten glimpses of it. I've babysat Hasidic kids, which was amazing. And I've been in the hip hop world a little. Again, I'm just getting tastes of both worlds, but I just thought they're so visually different. But I guess limitations on femininity are equal in both. Objectifying women, it's a world thing. It's not just, you don't only find it in religion and specific spaces. It's a global thing. But anyway, so I compared these two traditions and kind of that was the subject of the song. And yes, I did get pushback when I filmed this video. Obviously, I was among a lot of religious Jews in Jerusalem, walking down the street with very little clothing and a strimal, and a woman with a strimal. Hello. But these people are not my audience. So yes, probably from these people, I would get so much pushback, but half these people don't even know that my video exists. So, and then yes, I got some comments from some people on, social media, but they're not really my audience. They don't understand what I do. I would say most modern Jews love it. Mm-hmm. Like even yesterday at the wedding, somebody was like, "Wait, you look familiar. Are you the girl with the strimal?" And we've never met. And he's like, "It's so funny. It's so cool." And they're much more religious. They met in a shidduch. They went out for 2 weeks and now they have 3 kids. And they somehow don't find it offensive at all. So I think, no, most people are not offended by it. Because why? Because it's, again, I deeply am involved in Jewish culture. I don't critique. I actually just play with it. But I have the knowledge. I know the Yiddish. I study. I actually care. I'm not looking down on anything,
Yeah.
So I think it's very hard to actually critique what I do. Again, if you're really ultra Orthodox and you don't actually listen to what I sing because I'm a woman anyway, so you won't know, but you just see a woman with a strimal, then obviously it's offensive.
Yeah. I had an experience on my YouTube channel that surprised me. I interviewed a couple that lives in Hasidic Williamsburg, and they're a lovely couple. They're extremely gracious about what it means to live with other people. And this is New York City. New York City is a place where all sorts of people live next to each other, and they really embodied that effort of living next to someone who's different. And in the interview, the woman said that she runs with a sports bra and that her Hasidic landlord asked her not to wear it. And to my surprise, I got a flood of comments of people saying that it's extremely inappropriate of this woman to do that, which was so surprising to me, because if you actually are in Williamsburg, you see people with sports bras all the time. But the criticism of this woman was so intense that the couple almost wanted me to take the video down because they were so uncomfortable with how mean people were to them and their teachers, and they felt like their students are going to see the comments. So I was kind of, when I saw your video, I was wondering if you're dealing with any of that, where people kind of have expectations that in my view are unreasonable and are not coming from the actual Orthodox community, but from others who think, oh, you should be respectful.
Somehow not. I wonder that here, I think there's a bit of a difference. I think I have a little bit of it's a bit my artist persona. Like I'm comparing to this incident that you just explained. I'm an artist. I have more distance than a girl running through the neighborhood with a sports bra is a person running, she's much more accessible. Mine is a bit more a piece of art that some people might find offensive, but I think it's less personal.
Interesting.
That's just my guess. But also I don't spend that much time reading hate comments if they are there.
Yeah, very smart. On that note, you did a really lovely video about social media addiction and how the highs and the lows are so addictive and toxic. That was your most
Yeah.
recent project?
It's the most recent project that came out. Actually, since then, I released an album called A Schmaltzy Stew with my New Orleans jazz klezmer band Fusion from Minneapolis. And we just released our album 2 weeks ago. And our band is called Jubilaya. So that actually is even more recent. And it's really fun. And it's very Hamish and some original lyrics that I wrote in Yiddish and English. So that's my most recent. But yes, F the Algorithm or Fight the Algorithm, my video, is definitely one of the bigger ones and the themes that I'm exploring as
Yeah.
an artist these days. It's like an ongoing exploration how has social media shaped artists, our
Yeah.
world, our belief system, and what's impactful, what matters in life. Yeah, it's I'm constantly exploring these questions and frustrated by the way the
Yeah.
world has developed in terms of our engagement on social media.
Yeah, it is. It is. I very much appreciate the criticism of these things, especially with regards to young people who live in such a metricified world. So many likes, so many followers, so many friends online, and it's so addictive. This feedback loop. It's so hard to talk about it.
It's so hard. I find it so draining. I mean, I was surrounded by these themes and questions for the last 3 months because of the release of my video. But yeah, it's just so crazy to 10 years ago or 15 years ago, the fact nobody walked around constantly documenting
Yeah.
what what I'm doing in my life. And now we're more busy documenting what we're doing than doing.
Yeah. I know.
And actually today at my concert at in the elderly home, my mom came and she always films my concerts. And I said to her today, you are not filming. It's not going to look good anyway. It's not like on a nice stage. I just want you to enjoy it. She didn't
Yes.
film once. And
That's
then today
nice.
she told me it was so moving today. Like I was like, I had like, what do you call it?
Goosebumps.
Yeah. And I thought, I don't think, yeah, okay, maybe I performed better than other times, but I don't think so. I think it's because she wasn't watching through a lens. It's
Yeah.
because she was actually, people always say, yeah, no, I'm seeing. No, no, you're not watching. You're watching through something. You're not open to watching other people's reactions. You're watching through the lens.
Yeah.
And to me, actually, that was just actually amazing that she said it because I don't think it was more moving than other times. Maybe, but I've performed there. She's seen me before many times in different contexts. So, no, I think we need to become more occupied with living and being and connecting than documenting how we are
Yeah.
living, you know?
Yeah. I am guilty of documenting more than I ever did because I have a YouTube channel. I was
Yeah.
a tour guide for like 10 years and I would see the most interesting sites in the Hasidic community and I would never ever take out a device. It was just like I just saw it with my eyes and that was it. And it was fleeting. It was ephemeral. There was something very special about that. And now that I do YouTube videos, I find myself documenting and I feel so different about experiences when I'm like digging in my bag for my phone and I'm holding it up versus when it's like you let the experience just roll on and it's your memory. It's for you to articulate it to other people. And it's okay that it passed without like it being everything stored on a video. I also feel like at Hasidic weddings you now start to see people holding up smartphones as the kala is being covered, in the badekan, and it just really takes me out of the moment. I find Hasidic weddings to be one of the most emotional experiences. There are such highs and there are such like joyous moments and sad moments. There's so many intense, mournful moments and joyous moments. But the moment everyone is shoving phones, it's not the same experience. You just like seeing everyone sending it off to their friends. And I understand there's a grandpa who's sick in the hospital who, you're live streaming to. I completely respect that. And yet at the same time, I just feel myself taken out of the experience when I see all of these phones being held over the bride, you know?
Yeah, this is why we didn't allow phones at our chuppah.
Oh, you didn't?
No, there's just no way. We had a professional videographer. No, because you're not there.
Yeah.
You're concerned with streaming it to Facebook and how many people are like,
Yeah.
it's horrible.
How do
But
you though tell people don't film? Is that what you said? Like to the
yeah, we
guests?
just told our rabbi to please put your phones away. Yeah, we told them to say it, or maybe there was even a sign at the entrance. Um, no, it's just the worst.
Yeah.
But I was wondering actually because you have a YouTube channel, how you said it's a different experience documenting. Do you think there's also a beauty about it's not just negative? Like, do you think there's
Yeah.
also something you've discovered that's actually nice about the documenting?
Well, I feel like there is a beautiful story to be told, and there is value to telling it. I really believe there is value to telling it. There is an audience that would make assumptions that are often very black and white, and they're like, teach me about this world. My heart is open, and without that kind of visual documentation, they would never have that access. And I think that's a very valuable work. Like there is a very famous street photographer called Hasidim in the USA, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
You know him. He does beautiful work. Like I think his work is very, very, very special. And whenever I look at it, I think about what goes into it. Not everyone likes when you're around the neighborhood with a camera. You're also creating that camera experience. But I still think it's worthwhile if you come with the right intention and you come with the right sensitivity. So yes, I think so. I think I think my work is valuable, but I also feel like I'm mourning the loss of an organic experience where, like, actually to this day, whenever I go to a family wedding, I never do any video about it. I don't do video saying I'm going to the wedding. Or I go to any family thing. I don't film myself going. I don't film myself at it. And I keep that sacred. That's like my thing. When I am experiencing my Hasidic world, I am going to keep it as an organic experience. But there are occasions where I feel like it's an exchange, and there's a lot that's gained out of that exchange. And I take it, like, for me, it's like I take it seriously. I try not to overstep or not to do it for the wrong reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so funny because I went to this wedding yesterday. I don't have a single photo or video. My phone was gone for 8 hours and I loved it.
Yeah.
And then people were like, my mom was like, "Do you have photos or anybody?" And I was like, "No." So
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful to experience, and then it's also okay to document and exchange, but they're just
Yeah.
different, and there's a moment for both, but they're
Yeah.
not not at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. And also I think it's worthwhile to have a dialogue about what's lost. Even if we say, all right, well, this is the age when we're filming a lot, to acknowledge what the exchange is and ask ourselves when we want to make that exchange. So, I want to kind of wrap up this discussion because otherwise we can talk about this forever. This is something that like is a huge topic for me. Didn't have a smartphone until recently, and I only got a smartphone for my YouTube channel. And
Whoa.
yeah, I'm still adjusting. I'm still like getting used to this new phase in my life, which in some ways I've like sacrificed some big things.
That's so funny because I'm trying to think if I should get a flip phone, and then I do have my iPhone, but to only use it for like businessy stuff, you know?
Yeah. It's hard though. It's hard to keep it apart. It's hard to say, oh, I
Yeah.
have the iPhone and I'm going to schlep around with a flip phone. Because the moment I had a smartphone, everything was so much easier. My text verification codes came
Yeah.
flying in. You know, it was like, it's so much work with a flip phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else we should discuss before I wrap up? Like anything about your work or your interests that you feel like speaking to?
I don't know. Maybe I just want to say I feel like No, how do I want to say this? I think so many people don't realize that what they have is the most interesting. Who they are is the most interesting. Um, and I think me as an artist, I tried to use that, but I also, so the Yiddish and the Jewish world, that is who I am and what I have. But I also think, to me, it only becomes interesting in exchange with other things that are not like me, not or the opposite. So it's funny because you ask me these contrasts, especially in the Hasidic world, the Hamish vibe and the connectiveness, and then this radicality. I don't even know if that's a word, but that contrast, I just love contrast, and our world is full of it. And I think I'm just all about bringing up the contrast and letting them exist on the same in the same person that I
Yeah.
am on the same stage, which I think gives people permission to be okay that there is contrast and you can have both. You can be a mom and you can still be sexy, and you can have a career and you can still be like, you can love religion and you can still be critical. So I would say l'chaim to contrast.
Awesome. I love that. I love contrast. That's probably why I asked you these questions. L'chaim to contrast. I think we live in a world in which black and white is too much, and contrasts allow us to discover the gray.
Yeah, but actually putting them next to each other is the gray, People always separate things. And what I always find a bit annoying, or don't want to speak bad about any other artist, but in the Yiddish world, it's such a niche, especially the Yiddish art. And people always, there's very few people who take that nichey thing and put it up against something else so that other people can find a way in too, so that there's an other force. And so it stays always in this Yiddishy world, which, I don't know, to me, it's not that interesting to let things in their
In their
bubble. It's
silo.
more interesting
In their silo.
to let it react with something else, like chemistry, reacting molecules.
Leia in the lab of life. Rabbits.
Oh my
Leia,
God, I
meant.
love that.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, actually, I was a chemistry nerd in high school.
Oh, wow. Among many other things.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I so enjoyed talking to you, and you must be extremely tired because you had that wedding yesterday and that concert today.
Yeah, I didn't sleep much, but the concert energized me so much. Like I was a little nervous because we didn't rehearse much, and it's very intimate. I'm like this close to the people, to the old people. So I was a little nervous, but it energized me so much that now I'm happy. And then this talk and meeting you and realizing that my computer's gonna die in a moment. So I
Oh.
guess perfect timing.
Awesome. Well, then, thank you so much, Leia. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. And thank you all the listeners on YouTube and on the podcast as well. Bye-bye.